So again, to everyone in attendance, welcome. Thank you for making the time to join us for Sold on Real Estate with our special guest, Ohad Babo. My name is Matthew Garcia. I'm with the Career Center as an Associate Director. Today's conversation is going to be a lot about the industry at large, as well as specific experiences that Ohad has that he wanted to make the time to share with everybody in the room. We had been talking a little bit before we started, and there's a lot of information that I know you all are going to gain exceptional benefits from, and his insight is really something I'm excited to have shared with you all tonight. So without further ado, I'd love to ask Ohad a few questions first before allowing for there to be some Q&A as they come up in the chat. So if you hear something that Ohad has said, you want us to talk a little bit more about it and elaborate or explain, please send a message in the chat. You could send it directly to me, and I'll follow up with those questions. Otherwise, first question is, what caught your interest about real estate while a student at Sims? And did you choose your major with real estate in mind?
Okay, so first I'll start and I say thank you very much, Matthew, for having me. Always a pleasure, help students and be part of YU, the alumni program or any other program that real estate involvement. Definitely, I'll start and I say that I'm a YU alumni. I graduated in 2012. I got to YU because of the basketball, basically, which drew me into the community. And since then, I'm in the real estate business world, doing investment sales for GFI Realty, which is an off branch of GFI Capital. For the father company or the mother company is doing hotel development and multifamily development out of state mainly, and hotels in New York City. Some of you might have heard of the 5 Beekman Hotel, the Ace Hotel, the James Hotel, which is part of ownership in our company. And from that, I'll start with your question, Matthew. Basically, when I started in YU, I was not going actually towards real estate. Because of my background in sports and basketball, I was always interested in marketing and sports marketing. Also, YU at that time was a post Bernie Madoff situation, so there was no real estate program aside from principle of real estate and maybe real estate finance that were offered in school. So to your question, not really chose major knowing where I'm going to in real estate. I just did international business and finance minor. So which kind of gave me the background to deal with mortgages, kind of gave me the background of dealing with the numbers, and international business, of course, the nature of me being a foreign student helped a lot. Real estate is actually something that I grew up into, not in the sense of my family being involved in real estate, but me personally liking real estate, liking construction, liking doing some handwork, and in every summer that I have available, join my cousins painting houses and doing some minor, I would say low voltage work, basically on painting and renovations. Still doing it, by the way, still like it, still enjoy that. Even visiting my mom's house, there's always, some repairs that have to be done, and I still like it. And kind of helped me when I did property management from 2013 until 2018, when I was involved in a few investments and I was there property management as well. Definitely helped me with, ability to know how to deal with those situations when you need renovations, how much to invest, what to do, how much to put in, what type of work, what type of, workers, I guess, what are they expecting me to do, what kind of quote they give me. So definitely helped me with that.
Okay, thank you. Very immersed in the environment and in the industry, even before you got in, sounds like.
Yeah.
So that leads perfectly into the next question. A lot of students seek to get their immersion from internship experiences. So can you share a little bit about what role that the internship experience played in your career?
So, which brought me to the actually from the previous question, because I didn't actually really know what I wanted to do, and I was, as I told before, interested in a lot of marketing, a lot of sports. My first internship was working for a leasing company down in Midtown Manhattan, called KSR. Very nice guys. Found the same language as them, all young people, and really worked hard together. So, give me an experience of about a year that I did from my middle junior year all the way almost to my graduation. Um, Actually regretting not doing more than that, and which is I'm going to discuss a little bit further in the next few minutes. But gave me an opportunity to actually like the real estate market. Being exposed to, one of my first deals was one of my first tenants of Subway, franchisee that wanted to open everywhere in Midtown and Lower East. Did two deals with them, one in 34th Street and the other one in Essex Street in Lower East Side. uh, didn't really like the world of leasing because there is no immediate rewarding on it. Meaning you're doing the deal, you get paid 3 months after, maybe another 9 months after. There's a lot of cycles into it. Um, so actually, that taught me that I'm really interested in real estate, but I want to do something else. I was never drawn into residential. Was never drawn into leasing and renting apartments. I was never drawn into selling apartments. I know it must be great seeing $1 million listing on Bravo TV and seeing all of those flashy and guys with the suits and how nice it is. And by one phone call, sell me this building, I'll sell you this apartment. Boom, Ryan collects $75,000. Me sitting there and looking at it, I was like, listen, even when the first minute that you have accepted offer until the time that you get your check, there's so many areas down the way. So it's an interesting thing to be, interesting market to be. I mean, I heard from someone from the production that they're actually doing um, everything is based on past deals that they're kind of doing rescripting. So I guess that's why it's very easy. But at the end of the day, it's a very difficult job, and it's not like it's in TV, and it's a full-time job. If you treat yourself and if you want to be in that business and in this field, you have to treat it like you're going full-time job. Yes, some of those locations don't pay you. Some of those locations just offer you commission, but it's an investment in yourself. That's down the line, you'll see you collect the fruits on that. If you invest in yourself and you team up with the right person, team up with the right firm, team up with the right group, you would see that you'll learn in this business more than you could ever imagine, and which I guess leading to your next question soon.
Yes, appreciate it very much. Thank you. I had one follow-up, very short follow-up for internships.
Sure.
Whether virtual or in person, because we will eventually get back to assemblage of in person, and we'll talk more in depth about the in person versus virtual later. What's one or two things that you believe a student should ask for versus earn as far as experience in an internship?
Attention.
Mm-hmm.
Really, that's, I mean, it should be granted, be, something that you're getting while starting work at a firm. But if you're not going to get attention from the person that you're working with or for, then there's no reason doing it. Yes, working in a big company is great. Working with a team is great. But if your mentor, if your senior broker, if your junior, senior analyst or director is not giving you the right attention, you will not learn anything. Yes, at the end of the day, you have to do it on your own. You have to learn on your own. I mean, most of us are self-directed. We are educating ourselves down the road. And I always tell the junior brokers under me, if Google can answer your questions, don't come to me. I'm here for the difficult part. I'm here for the end of negotiations. I'm here for collecting commission. I'm here to be the bad guy that sometimes you have to be, or the bad cop sometimes. But don't ask me something that you can find on Google. And I'm trying to, there's a good amount of there's a balance that has to be actually taught by you and picked up by you, whether 20% doing work by yourself and 80% doing work for a team with the mentor, or 70-30 or 60-40. Everything depends on the situation. In brokerage, for instance, there is much more involvement between the senior broker and a junior broker. Otherwise, you're just calling locations that you have no interest. So I have to be on really see those guys and know what they're doing. So back to your question, Zoom is good. Zoom is nice. You face hard there, but there's no substitute of actually being in an office. Versus underwriting job that sometimes you only get a setup from a broker. You're putting the formulas into Excel. Some of you guys probably have interned before in a company that's looking for analysts, or did some background, simple IRR, simple cash flow, simple cap rate, or GRM, or any other formula that you're using. So that's the easy part, and that's really takes less attention than actually being involved as a broker.
Understood. Thank you. So I have one question from the group. that has to
Sure.
do with a little bit with the role navigation before we get into our next question about specifically mentors. The question goes, how does someone starting or entering the industry decide or know if they are able to work a job without salary or on only commission? Do you recommend commission job only as a starting job?
Um, well, I think that there's no glass ceiling at all in brokerage. That's the number. Let's start with that. Meaning there is no limit of how much you can make. It's basically driven by the market. It's driven by, let's put COVID aside. It's driven by the market. It's driven by you. It's driven by how much work you're going to put in. Working as an analyst, as an underwriter, as a loan officer, it's great. It's fun. You'll probably be capped, be pretty much at 120 to 150,000 dollars a year, which is great. And I'm not, discarding any of that. But at the end of the day, being a broker, probably the only thing similar to it is actually being an investor. There's unlimited amount of money you can earn, meaning you can make. I've done one of my best years was 12 deals a year. So in the end of the line, you're looking at very respectful six figures. I've heard of brokers that are doing seven figures, and some teams that are doing 8 or 9 figures together, split up. So at the end of the day, it's what you want and what you can. If you have a family, if you're getting married, if you need to put bread on the table, there's no support of your parents, there's no support of the family, then I strongly recommend you go start a job that actually pays you, and get something with a little bit more cash flow rather than investing in yourself. In real estate, especially in my position, investment sales broker, it's an investment. You're starting with no commission, probably for the first 7 months. I'll be honest with you. That's it's not easy. It's difficult, but at the end of the day, you're investing so much in yourself, and you're building so much of your personal database, personal record, book of clients, and which you can take anywhere you go after. So if there is a time for people not to work on salaries or not getting paid W-2 or pay jobs and everything, I think that's right after graduation. I don't see myself starting now. I'm 34. I don't see myself starting at 34 doing what I'm doing for 8 years already. So there's no right time for it. It's basically based on your social economic situation, based on support you're getting from your parents, based on your marriage status, single versus with kids. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Getting into our third question is about mentors. How did mentors make a difference in your real estate career development while you were at YU?
So I'll start and I say that it didn't at all at YU. But I mean, I couldn't find anyone. I was very connected to Professor Strauss, Michael Strauss, that I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with. Very connected to him. It helped me a lot, directions and questions. I couldn't find any other professor in YU, and I think it was mainly because of the whole post-Madoff situation, that there were a lot of professors. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't know if any of you guys were involved, but I remember coming to YU in 2008, in January 2008. We could have chosen 4 or 5 courses out of 35, 40. Within a year, the page was basically one page. We couldn't find much to choose from. So the university went through a lot. So I couldn't find myself taking the same semester, same classes with the same professors for over 3-4 times. That didn't happen versus what's happening in the Jewish studies. So it really didn't help me much besides Professor Strauss. I mean, but I'll tell you what, the day I got to the real job, I teamed up with 2 I wouldn't say super brokers, but definitely top performer in my company that I had signed with. They were Israelis, so it was much easier for me. And they really guide me and walked me through the ropes of being in a company that is, have 150 workers, being in an industry where, you don't know when is your next paycheck, but they'll be able to survive and put the money in the right place. So mentorship definitely did a great thing for me. Post-YU, post-graduation, I'll just throw a nice example. I sold a building in 2014 in Journal Square, New Jersey, Jersey City. Not a lot of people were working that area then. The first day I got there, I saw a sign by Kushner saying, we're going to build here 70,000 square foot of retail, 170,000 square feet of residential. And I don't know if you guys know the tallest tower in Jersey City right now. That's the development that I saw in 2014, which really drew me to the area. So I saw that building, and one of the brokers that was brokering it with me told me, listen, I know you're young. I know you want to spend all your money going to Cancun, going to Israel, going to wherever you want, but take nice amount of it, spend it, 75 or 80% of what you made, put aside, and let's invest it with me in a building. Recently, I was able to, after 8 months, I was able to refinance on that building, and I was actually getting my second or third dividend in the past few weeks on that building. So really helped me focus my head, make sure that I know what I'm doing, make sure I'm not going and wasting my money on stuff that is not necessary, and investigate my future. So mentorship post YU definitely helped me. I do regret not being involved in any real estate clubs, finance clubs, anything that has to do with that. But there was course of my 4 years in YU, I didn't have much time between working the gym or being in a basketball team and travel a lot. So yes, regretting that, regretting not being involved with people. Kind of like me, I wish I knew there was something, that was some alumni that were willing to give time and effort and support. And I know a few guys of you reach out to me, and I'm always trying to give you attention and always trying to do that. And that's part of me regretting not taking that opportunity when I was in YU.
I really appreciate you sharing all that information and experience. And going into that next question again, very perfectly, what do you wish that you knew about the real estate industry before entering it?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, I regret not getting into it earlier. I mean, if I knew that I could have interned when I was my second, third semester in YU, instead of going back to Israel, instead of doing a summer camp in, one of those times when I coach basketball, I would have definitely done that. I think that putting time during school, I know it's difficult with the double curriculum in YU, but I wish I would have had the opportunity to do that before, starting maybe my sophomore year. Also, granted, I was a little bit older than any other guy that came to YU because I was in the army. So I came to YU when I was 22. Most of you guys come in there after a year in Israel. You're 19 or maybe 2 years in Israel, 19, 20. I was 22. I had the opportunity and I didn't take it. So I regret not starting earlier. And I regret not being involved, as I said before, in any other clubs that offer anything to the students. And I know there were a lot of those, but just can't cry over things that happened before.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Switching gears just a little bit and talking about these
Mm-hmm.
uncertain times that we're all experiencing. So, considering the times, how do you feel like they're going to impact how prepared students who are currently attending this session or currently exploring opportunities, prepared can they possibly be for the field if they're not getting the similar experiences or even have access to the ones that you would have had back when you were at YU?
Well, I'll start, and I said it, in times of uncertainty, it's the best time to learn. You all could read about real estate. Media is very available for you, whether it's the Real Deal, Commercial Observer. I'm actually willing to do, Matthew, if you don't mind, I'll send you after the session here. I'll send you a list of all the links that what we follow daily basis as brokers. We follow those websites. We look into that. We're seeing what's in the market, what's happening. So you guys should definitely look into it on a daily basis or a weekly basis. All those websites are free and easy to access and gives you a nice opportunity seeing where the market shifts, whether it's the past 6 or 7 months. There's a lot of talk about the last mile due to COVID, last mile distribution, meaning, just access to the city. So a lot of people are looking at the Bronx, a lot of people are looking at New Jersey around the I-95, going up to Connecticut around the I-95, in Brooklyn, East New York and Cypress Hill area. A lot of people looking for industrial sites because they believe that people still live in the city and they need to get their stuff delivered. What's going to be a strong market? The last mile market. So that's something that people are looking in because of COVID. Additional things, a lot of people are being very cautious on retail. Don't want to touch retail. They don't want to touch anything that's strictly retail. They don't want to touch anything with retail on the bottom. Why? Because first of all, we all saw the riots that happened before. I'm sure that the insurance is covering it, but at the end of the day, if you have an operator, a store that is suffering from COVID for so long and no one is really coming into the store, and then suddenly someone breaking in and steal their stuff, it's basically, you know, shooting and making sure that they're dead. That killed a lot of businesses. So a lot of landlords don't want to touch retail. In addition to that, banks don't lend on retail anymore. And that's something that you pick up from being knowledgeable about the market and understanding the market. Um, Also, you know, I think as I said before, in terms of uncertainties, that when the market is slow, no one is doing a lot of deals. That's pretty much where we are now. I'm lucky enough to be involved in two deals that we're doing now, and there are two deals that I've never touched before, two sections that I've never touched before. We started looking into the regional market of the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast. I'm actually doing also a deal in Tulsa, Oklahoma now. So a lot of things that I've never thought that I will be touching and doing, because all we thought was New York City is the greatest real estate city. It is, at the end of the day. But there is a lot of real estate out of New York. There is a lot of real estate out of Miami, out of Chicago, out of LA, out of Texas. You know, driving around Oklahoma last month, seeing that there's a highway of the minimum you know, speed is 55 miles per hour. Everyone's driving 85 miles per hour, and seeing all of that green and nice, beautiful, eco-friendly communities. I understand that, you know, there's much more to real estate in the United States than just New York City. Not only we suffered from COVID in New York City, we also suffered from the votes that took place in June 2019. That actually, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but what the city did is kind of threw extra regulations on free market versus rent stabilized apartments. So there's no longer destabilizing an apartment. The whole game in real estate up until from the mid 80s until June 2019 was basically buying a building fully stabilized and the low price, low cap, taking advantage of the upside, what we used to call buying out the tenants, taking to courts tenants that don't pay, renovate the apartment, rent it as free market. You capitalize on your investment within 3, 4 to 7, 8 months. You refinance the building, and you move on to the next one. That's pretty much was the whole game. There was no cash flow in any of those deals. There was just that game. In 2019, due to the votes in Albany, they changed this whole game. There's no more taking apartment which is stabilized and turning it into free market, which threw a lot of our investors out of New York City. Add that to the whole factor of COVID and the fact that people want to be, I wouldn't say only in the suburbs, but people want to have their backyard with the kids or their, you know, place to go with the kids, not being trapped in four walls in Upper East Side, Upper West Side, Washington Heights, or Lower East Side. Add that to this whole factor of, you know, things happen in New York City, and you'll get where we are headed to. I know that a few months ago, Rosewood Realty started their own national team. I know that Marcus and Mentorship doing it for years. GFI now we're doing it, and I'm actually spearheading it. I'm the one that's actually running this whole thing. So definitely COVID helped to get into that point. But at the end of the day, it was a mix of COVID and the post regulations time.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you sharing. You know, considering that part of what is important to gaining experiences is doing it early and often while you're in college. And so, are there specific pieces of knowledge or skills or abilities or any kinds of experiences that are most beneficial for students to have to make themselves marketable for real estate opportunities? And of those, how can students earn them during this time where they may not be able to do them as frequently or as often?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question actually, and I'm a big believer in networking. I think that that's the number one thing that COVID didn't affect. All of the students are and their families are part of communities, are part of synagogues, are part of you know, real estate families. I'm pretty sure that if I ask any of you guys, if you know 3 or 4 people in your shul or your synagogue that is actually doing real estate, I'll get 100% from each one of you guys. Those things are never affected. Use LinkedIn, use personal connections, emails. Real estate people like to hear from people from their community. Yes, we sometimes don't like doing business in our community. And I'll tell you, I'm part of the Safra community on the Upper East Side. I don't see myself doing business with anyone there, only because I'd rather keep it separate. But at the end of the day, for you guys, because you're young, because you don't have that whole database that I created myself in the past 8, 9 years, I think that's very important for you to use LinkedIn, connect to them, personal relationships, ask your parents if they know anyone, ask your family, ask your uncles, and ask your aunts, everything that you can do in order to put your face and name out there. It's extremely important. Um, that didn't affect. Touching real estate in any aspect is possible. Again, being extra familiar with what's happening in the market, being extra familiar with new buyers, new sellers. If you see yourself going into real estate, no matter what sector of real estate, whether you're doing marketing for a real estate project, whether you're doing mortgages or being a loan officer, you will have to pick up the phone and call people. There is no business, there is no real estate business that actually generates business to you automatically. Everything has to be done by you. And I could, just throw a sector of real estate out there and I'll tell you how you could add value to your business. So you being familiar with as many people as possible in the industry always helps. So let's start with that. And I think that keeping in touch with why you guys, because I see myself always coming across and I look at new companies, for instance, that are buying in the Southeast for an example. And I look into their website and I see the team bio and I look into one guy. The first thing you look and the first thing you see, whether he wears a yarmulke or not, whether he's Jewish or not, where does he go to school? Where did he go to school? Whether he went to yeshiva, then I have common background and can speak to him. If he went to NYU, then we both lived in New York at a certain point of time. There's always something that you can add and people would like to talk and would like to hear those things. So that's something you need to pay extra attention to while COVID, because doesn't affect much.
A lot of what I get students who I used to advise on a more frequent basis and then in conversations at programs is, I find it very hard, Matt, to try and network on LinkedIn when I'm not sure what people are going to listen to when I ask them in a message to give me a shot so I can have a conversation with them. When people reach out to you, is there anything that you're looking for in particular or that you've heard from colleagues is something that is beneficial for students to show that they're polished, that they're motivated in those messages when they only have so many characters to really introduce themselves?
I think that actually shows great value of a person. I actually think that if someone is reaching out to me, he will not be afraid of cold calling. He will not be afraid of reaching out to people doing the job that I'm doing. He will not be afraid, and he's actually, I would excuse my French, has balls. That's something that's extremely important, especially in real estate. Especially the fact that we're doing, I would say, 60% cold call and reaching out to new people. I think it's part of the business. So 100% think that there's a lot of value into it. And I really respect someone who's going to reach out to me and ask me for if I consider him as a candidate, if I'll just take the time to speak to him. And, just give you a small example. Someone called me personally because they did some research. He called my landline and told me, listen, I saw that you sold some buildings. I see that you're in charge of hiring in the GFI right now. I want to come for an interview. And you know what? It was post-COVID. Well, not post, but during COVID. I told him, listen, let's be in touch when I get into the office. The first week I got to the office, we connected again. He came to the office. He's probably working for me for 3 weeks and he already has one deal in contract. That shows a lot about the person, shows a lot about someone who's feeling mature. I mean, there is a lot, being in 22 years old, you can be so mature in your behavior that I prefer dealing with you versus someone who's 35 years old that I can't really communicate with, that he doesn't want to listen to what I have to say. Actually taking that extra time and, given that, doing some research on a person, knowing what you are reaching out to. Don't just talk in general, be very know exactly what you're reaching out. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't just send a general message. People in the real estate industry, they like straightforward. I mean, personally, because we're dealing with such a BS job most of the time, it's refreshing to see someone who's very straight and very honest.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. So to kind of wrap with a final question to segue into you taking the floor, talk a little bit about GFI. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your current role and its responsibilities, and if you so choose, how it may have been impacted by COVID and the pandemic we're all experiencing?
So as I was touching on before, GFI is a company that's been around for 40, I want to say 44 years or something like that. Started as mortgage brokers, shifted into real estate brokers, and then taking the development side and ownership side as well. Um, the ownership side has definitely suffered from COVID. The ownership is currently own approximately 2,000 hotel rooms throughout the state, as I mentioned before. So that industry is suffering a lot. Not saying that it won't recover. I think that hotels actually have a lot of value over Airbnb, for instance, especially in New York City. I think that that's the industry that will pick up right after the holidays, as soon as things will start to. I'm pretty sure that January, February, towards spring and summer of next year will be a good year for the hotels. So the company suffered from that. In terms of brokers, in terms of what we do, yes, we were forced to work from home during COVID, but at the end of the day, it made us appreciate the office. It made me appreciate the office. It made most of my guys appreciate the office. There's no substitute of actually being in the office. The office vibe, being around 35 brokers or 30 brokers, definitely something you're being fed up. If you hear someone bringing a new listing, you hear someone is telling the other guy, "Oh, I got a rent roll. Oh, I got this listing in here. What do you think about that?" It definitely gets you into the groove of thing and gets you into the motion. Once you personally want to make more calls versus sitting at home and trying to motivate yourself, which is doable. I'm doing it now when I'm in Israel, but at the end of the day, it's not as productive as being in the office. But it did teach us about how to do some research, not being in office, how to navigate new locations that we have to discover. And as I said before, GFI during the course of the years was traditionally New York City multifamily company. I guess sold over 10 to 15 billion million of worth of properties. So definitely something we shifted was going towards those markets of out of New York City, those markets in Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, all over, all the way to Florida. Add that to a lot of our investors that actually live in New York City and looking to invest down south due to the reasons I mentioned before as well. So it kind of put us in a perfect position for us to learn a new market, for us to explore a new market, to do some research. We have perfect tools for it. There are things, a lot of parameters that we're looking into on those listings that we never looked in New York. In New York, it used to be very simple. You have a 6 units building if you're selling Bushwick. You know what you can get for the rents. All you need to do is know what the structure of the apartment is, whether it's a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, what the layouts are, what's the condition, and you can somewhat guesstimate the expenses and know what's your cap rate. Going out, there's so many, because you're dealing with 200, 300 units, there are so many different parameters, so many different metrics that you have to check and look. There's much more transparency between the sellers and the buyers in those markets, which I personally appreciate. I find myself getting calls back from everyone that I leave a message to. Silence is calling me back. I guess they have more time and the sun is shining more in the south, which is definitely more important versus New York City. That is very, what can you do for me today? What can you sell? What can you buy? I don't have time. I don't have chance to talk to you. You call me again. So different market, different people. Again, I'm doing, I would say 70% out of state, 30% still New York City, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Bronx, because I still like those locations and I'm involved and I've sold some buildings here. So I like that. But at the end of the day, we were forced to go nationwide or regionally more due to COVID. And I'm not regretting it, not for a second.
Terrific, terrific. I appreciate you sharing all that you have today, and want to continue to give you the floor just in case there is more information that you'd like to share with those in attendance about GFI and about how it is that students can find some opportunities.
So again, as I said before, I'm available for everyone. Matt, if you could just share my information, post our session with the guys. You have my email, you have my phone, you can send the signature. Feel free to reach out to me all the time. I'm available 24/6. So that's basically the best way to reach out to me, or LinkedIn. Again, there's no shame. Again, feel confident with what you're doing. Feel confident that you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn. I think it's a great tool. I definitely implore you to do some research about the industry before deciding where to go. I see a lot of guys going to small companies, and at the end of the day, they're telling me, "Yeah, I went there. I spent 3, 4, 6 months there. I didn't actually learn anything, and I moved on." I'll be more than happy to use Mika Benishu that I know a few of you guys familiar with. He was working under me for almost a year and a half. Um, he did one deal with me. We sold a lot in the Bronx. Wasn't making a lot of money, but he was able to get a job in property management right after or during COVID. So being in the real estate world, being in under working under me, working under other guys in my office, definitely gave him the experience that he needed, and he was able to find a job that could help him, get find his path in the future. But he was willing to invest in himself for almost a year and a half, and I'm happy he did it. And again, he found a job easily after or during COVID, which was key. So definitely do the research, make the right decision. Don't jump into companies that won't give you the time, won't give you the attention, won't help you grow yourself. So I think that's something that's very important for you guys.
Wonderful. I appreciate it. I'd like to open it up to the rest of the group to ask some questions.
Sure.
I'm happy to field them for you all. So if you want to put them in the chat, that'd be terrific. If you'd like to raise your hand and trying to have a bit of a conversation, you can do that as well. We have a few minutes where we can field some questions.
All right. Perfect. I think I covered everything.
You did terrific job, sir. So as
That's
Ohad
always good.
said, he's gonna make himself available to everyone, which is terrific. It's a rare opportunity to connect with somebody who you just learned a lot from now, but important part of networking is deepening those working relationships. And so connecting with Ohad is something that he is welcoming, and you'll get that information hereafter. This is also a recorded session. It'll be on YouTube in a couple of days from YU. And so with that being said, I'm going to check the chat again, make sure there's no additional questions. No additional questions. Ohad, you covered everything. You gave them all you had,
Beautiful.
which is terrific. Again, I'd like to thank Ohad Babo very much again for making the time. It is in the wee hours of the morning in Israel, and he's here bright and early so that you all can get this information. Appreciate you very much. Thank you for coming. We'll talk very soon.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'll see some of you guys tomorrow.
Thank you, Ohad. It's a pleasure.
Take care. Thank you.